Western Canada's Highway 16 weaves through rugged, frigid forests to connect the British Columbian cities of Prince Rupert and Prince George. This stretch of road is better known as the Highway of Tears, a nickname that hardly came by accident. It's not only the eeriest road in the entire country, it's also the last road many people have ever traveled. The Highway of Tears is a 450-mile stretch within Highway 16. It became famous for the number of people who have been murdered or gone missing there. According to official sources, the highway has claimed 20 victims, but that's not the full story. Some have suggested that the actual number of lives lost is twice that, and others say that it actually could be in the hundreds. The route was given its grim moniker during a vigil for victims held in Terrace, British Columbia in 1998 by a woman named Florence Naziel. Naziel was thinking of the grieving families of the victims, crying over their lost loved ones. The remains of many victims have been discovered along the highway throughout the decades. In 1974, the body of Monica Ignace was found strangled and stabbed in an abandoned car. In 1981, Roswitha Fuchspickler was mangled and mutilated. Therese Humphrey was found naked and half frozen in a snowbank in 1993. What exactly is happening along this particular corridor, and who is killing all of these people? Some important considerations start with the highway covering a major industrial route and getting plenty of daily traffic. The majority of the victims were women, and many who disappeared were prostitutes, a job that historically is vulnerable to murderers. Secondly, many of the people using the highway were not local, and thus would not be recognized. Finally, large stretches of the route are also deserted, meaning there's less chances for a witness, or better yet, a good Samaritan. There are 23 First Nations locales near the Highway of Tears, and these indigenous communities have suffered the worst losses. This, perhaps, is the core of the problem. Furthermore, the government has downplayed the actual number of victims to the public, both missing and dead. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police began investigating the Highway of Tears in 1981. They started this with the so-called Highway Murders Initiative. This was supposedly their plan to get to the bottom of this tragedy and clean up the area, but the streak of murders and mysterious disappearances continued on, despite the investigation. The police also started another effort called Project E-Pana in 2005 under their Unsolved Homicide Unit. The project was named after the Inuit word for the spirit goddess who guides souls into the afterlife. A morbid name for a morbid subject. Perhaps the eeriest thing about the Highway of Tears is that the vast majority of the murders are never solved, and so the killers might still be walking around free to this day. It's as if these victims, on the other hand, essentially just vanished into thin air. Many believe most of the disappearances are just murders where the body was never found. Fortunately, over the years, a few of the cases have been solved. Colleen McMillan left her house in 1974 to go visit a friend. Her remains were found by the highway a month later. And DNA evidence helped convict serial killer Bobby Jack Fowler as the murderer in that case. He died 6 years prior, however. There was some justice done at least. Fowler happens to be a suspect in a few other Highway of Tears cases as well. In 2014, E-PANA Investigations and the Unsolved Homicide Unit charged Gary Taylor Handlin with murder. Evidence linked him to the killing of 12-year-old Monica Jack in 1978. 41 years later, Handlin was finally found guilty by a jury and sentenced to life in prison in 2019. He was the first killer in Project E-PANA to go through full court proceedings and sentencing. Sadly, however, Highway of Tears cases with such outcomes are the exception. Many cannot technically be counted as murders due to the lack of a body. Frances Brown hasn't been seen since October 14, 2017, after she had gone out mushroom picking in the mountainous terrain that adorns the highway. 4 days later, the police called off their intense search efforts for her, which consisted of 19 different search and rescue crews from all over the province, along with local volunteers. It was the largest search operation undertaken on the highway. In Brown's case, the only thing they found was evidence of a campfire. Heavy rain and snow made it difficult to find any other trace of her. However, it's unlikely that Frances just got lost. She was raised by a trapper and was an experienced backcountry explorer herself. She had been picking mushrooms for decades. Not only that, but she was fully prepared with weather-appropriate clothing, boots, and a lighter. Her murderer is almost certainly out there somewhere. So, why Highway 16? Many people have pointed out over the years that the area has very little public transportation coupled with low rates of car ownership. This means that for a lot of people living in nearby indigenous communities, hitchhiking appears to be an option, if not the only option, to get around town. These days, there are signs posted along the highway that specifically warn women against hitchhiking. The fact that people have continued to go missing for decades with relatively little progress in identifying the culprits might indicate something sinister or woeful about the area. Not only is it so impoverished that many people can't afford cars, but it has been plagued with widespread drug abuse and domestic violence issues. Some people more broadly note that these indigenous communities have also been disconnected from their traditional culture, and that their family units have been historically disrupted by the government's foster care and school systems. Some family members of the victims claim that the Canadian government and the Royal Mounted Police continue to ignore the problem. Indigenous communities in particular have spoken out against what they see as unfair treatment, that the police just don't take these cases as seriously as they do the other ones. In all, one belief must certainly prevail. Will this haunting highway continue to claim a community's suffering and even more souls? Only time and tears will tell. My name is Ashley, and thank you so much for watching. We're a group of curious and passionate humans, creating documentary-style content for those who share our curiosity, ask questions, and seek to dig deeper in a world where almost everything isn't quite what it seems. We are Mystery Syndicate. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, leave a comment, and give this video a like. And to be notified when we post new videos, hit that notification bell. Also, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. For exclusive merchandise and our blog, visit our website at www.mysterysyndicate.com. And for those that wish to support our channel, please visit Mystery Syndicate on Patreon. We have a variety of new patron tiers with tons of great benefits. If you want to see your name on a future video, be sure to check it out. From all of us at Mystery Syndicate, thank you again. We sincerely appreciate your support.